This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Look, we know the Cleveland Browns are one of the most talented teams in the NFL. Player for player, position for position, the Browns roster stacks up with anybody's. On paper, the Browns are one of the better teams, or line up to be one of the better teams in the NFL. And what makes us feel more confident about this than like how we felt going into 2021 or going into 2019 is that this is not a roster that was put together in the summertime. This is a roster that proved that they are one of the more talented rosters in the NFL. And now they're just returning for a second year. Pretty much everybody. But as talented as this roster is, as powerful as this roster is, I think there's a different element of this team that I find very compelling. I think this is what a lot of people are going to find compelling about the Cleveland Browns. It's easy to get lost when you are somebody who watches this channel or somebody like myself. We love to get lost in the nuts and bolts of football, right? We love to look at the film. We love to talk about games that happened last year and break them down. We love to talk about the nuts and bolts, the inner workings of this football thing. But what attracts people to a team before they're interested in getting involved at that level are narratives, are story points. And I'm not saying that these things are intentionally put out there, but these sports naturally have stories that can be brought in, right? The Cleveland Browns always have a built-in story until they win the Super Bowl, because the story of the Cleveland Browns until they win the Super Bowl is always going to be about how the fans have suffered to get to that Super Bowl. We're on that long journey that's been happening since the 60s, right? So the Browns always have that built-in narrative, that built-in talking point that national broadcasts hammer down every time we're on TV, right? As much as I complain about it, that's why we get the doom scrolls, so that they can establish to a wider audience that the Browns fans, or that Browns fans have been suffering for a long time, and that this is why them winning should make you feel good, even though you don't cheer for the Browns, because they deserve this on some level, right? That's always going to be one of the main driving narratives for the Browns. Don't be surprised if the Browns look like they're going to make a run this year, that becomes a big thing. We saw it happen with the Detroit Lions, right? Who have a pretty similar built-in story to us, where this was seen as Detroit's day and they got that kind of love because that's how they were being pushed. But I think there are some narratives on this team that are interesting and competing in some ways that I want to talk about today. And what I find very interesting about this team is, on one side, you have a defense that is there to prove itself, right? They had a claim to the best defense in all of football. They had a claim to be an historically best defense, but those claims are inconclusive. They weren't able to play well enough in the playoffs. They weren't able to play well enough consistently on the road to be able to undisputedly have that crown. So they have a crown in their minds that's contested. And the story for the Browns defense this year is going to be about getting that undisputed best defense in the NFL, and then working your way into one of the best defenses in the NFL, or in the recent NFL history. This Browns defense has that potential. They are very talented. They have very special players on this team, right? Myles Garrett is a once in a generation type player. Denzel Ward is a very special player. JOK has the potential, if he plays consistent, to be a very special player. The same thing goes for Grant Delpit. You have guys who have been consistent Pro Bowl players like Za'Darius Smith. You got guys who've been consistent high-level starters like Dalvin Tomlinson. You got guys all over this field. You have a great defensive coordinator in Jim Schwartz who has led historically good defenses in the past. You have everything you need. You have veterans in the right spots. You have continuity on the defensive roster. You have all-time players in their prime. You literally, like, if you were putting together a my first generational defense package, this is what would be in it. It would be the Cleveland Browns defense. So the narrative is pretty straightforward for the Cleveland Browns. The narrative is simple. You have a disputed claim at being one of the best defenses in the NFL. You have a disputed claim at being a generational defense. Yes, you have a reason to be in that conversation. You earned that last year, but you don't own that conversation, right? We talking about a big three on defense, and the Browns need to prove that it's just Big Me in that big three. That's what the narrative is going to be for the Cleveland Browns. Are they like that? Is this Browns defense like that? Or are they a team that deserve to have a shared claim on the best defense in the NFL? Because that's what they ended up with last year. They should have been the best in the world, but it's a disputed claim, isn't it? Right? It's not undisputed. And that's what the Browns want to be. They want to be undisputed. They want to be the best defense in the NFL and one of the best defenses that we have seen play in the last 10 years. It's all there for them. It's all achievable for them. But that's the story for this Browns defense. It's pretty straightforward. The Browns offense, on the other hand, see, while the defense's story is about dominance, it's about asserting yourself, the offense is about recovery and redemption. The defense has nothing to prove as far as if they're good. They just have to prove if they're the best. The offense has to prove that they can be good. Now, the Browns offense with Nick Chubb has always been able to be some level of good, some level of useful. That's not up to debate. The Browns offense, at the very least, if they stay healthy, will be useful. But the question isn't will they be useful, it's will they be good? And that's what they have to prove. Nick Chubb, comeback player of the year candidate, in my opinion, probably should be the front runner. Because if he's able to play relatively early in the season, which all signs point to him being able to play relatively early in the season, he'll be able to rack up the type of numbers that would bring him into that conversation. And given that his injury was A, graphic, and B, on national TV, so a lot of people remember it, makes it even easier for him to get that award. Some people argue Deshaun Watson could win comeback player of the year. I think he played too well last year to really qualify for winning comeback player of the year. Usually to be comeback player of the year, you have to be like one of the worst players in the NFL if you did not suffer a catastrophic, like almost career-ending injury in the way that we talk about it with Nick Chubb. And Deshaun Watson just didn't suffer that. So I don't think he should get comeback player of the year. But the way people talk about him, you would think he can win comeback player of the year. Right? Like, I'm pretty much in the minority in saying that Deshaun Watson played well. I don't think he played great. I think he played fine. And you don't get comeback player of the year for playing great after playing fine. Usually, you don't get comeback player of the year for doing that. But he's somebody you could throw up there, right? Jed Wills, This is his last chance to really put a great season together. He's had great moments in seasons. He's had good moments in seasons. He's had awful stretches in seasons. If Jed wants to get the kind of money that Jed wants to get, right? $25 million a year, probably not going to be from Cleveland. But if he wants to get that money, he has to put together a solid and consistent year. There can't be a stretch where he gives up 4 sacks in 3 games. There can't be a stretch where it feels like Jed Wills is a liability. There can't be a stretch where I have to make 2 Jed Wills videos in 2 weeks because he's not blocking well. It just can't happen like that. He has to redeem himself. He has to redeem that draft status that he has, right? When you have somebody sign Jed Wills this offseason, they want to feel like they're getting the number 10th overall pick. He has to redeem that status. And right now, he doesn't feel like a number 10 overall pick. Feels like a first round pick, just not a number 10 overall pick. He needs to play more consistent to feel like that. It's about redemption, right? You have return, you have redemption, you have recovery. The 3 R's of the Browns offense. Will Nick Chubb recover? Will Deshaun Watson redeem his old reputation? Will Jed Wills redeem his old reputation? When both those right tackles recover, who starts? The Browns are going to have a lot more attention focused on them the closer the season comes, because people are going to catch up to the fact that this team is very talented and has a lot of very good players. And with that attention is going to come with scrutiny. That tension is going to come with high expectations. And it's interesting to compare this season to other seasons where it felt like the Browns had a lot of scrutiny and a lot of attention at earlier points in the offseason, right? But this is the first time I feel like the team is actually in a position where you can expect them to be ready. Other times we hoped they would be ready for that moment. But this time I'm like, hey, they should be ready. These aren't 22-year-olds, getting their first glimpse of excitement. These are 27, 28-year-olds who have kind of been through the ups and downs of being an NFL team for a little while. So they know. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Let me know, what narratives do you find the most interesting for this upcoming season in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have you a better night. Peace.